what I think would be most interesting for me and for everyone, and is, my best format is Q&A format, and I certainly could just go on, and I'm a free associate and talk about different things related to fermentation, but I would much rather sort of see what's on people's minds. What do people want to talk about? Does anyone have like a question, a burning question? Good.
Bringing the people behind our food to life.
Is it possible to overdo it? Like, yes, it's possible to overdo it. I mean, I think like, probably with like, bread and mustard and cheese and wine, you could probably live for quite a long time without necessarily overdoing it. Periodically I get emails from people who have heard that like in parts of East Asia, there are elevated rates of esophageal and gastric cancers associated with heavy consumption of salty preserved vegetables. And when I've sort of investigated that, it turns out, like all the epidemiology, it's people who are eating almost exclusively salty preserved vegetables and not eating fresh vegetables that are experiencing those, elevated cancer levels. Once people incorporate sort of a more balanced diet that includes fresh vegetables as well as salty preserved vegetables, there's no increase in cancer. And in fact, fermented vegetables are known to have these compounds called isothiocyanates, which are considered to be anti-carcinogenic. But I mean, I would say, moderation is important in all things. And, in terms of like food, the best thing any of us can do is just eat an extremely varied diet, and that goes for ferments too. I mean, if you're looking for, bacterial stimulation, diversity is the name of the game, and just eating 100 portions a week of sauerkraut isn't really the answer. It's like, it's having some sauerkraut and having some yogurt and having some kefir and having some kombucha and having some mabi and having some kvass and, just mixing it up. Not that you have to eat every, sort of obscure fermented food that comes from every part of the world, but, there's just no reason to eat like tons of any, one of these things. And, many of these foods, particularly the really salty ones, the history of the way they're used is as condiments. They're never, the bulk of what people eat. They're used to, kind of like, embellish the rest of the plainer food. So I think, yeah, sure, you could overdo it. Okay, when vegetables get mushy from fermentation, what makes vegetables crunchy are pectins. In the short run, salt hardens the pectins. So the vegetables actually get a little bit crunchier in the short run just from the application of a little bit of salt. But okay, a basic like sort of biological concept is that all living creatures contain the enzymes to digest themselves, and one of the classes of enzymes that are found in vegetables are pectinase enzymes that digest the pectins. And generally what's going on when the vegetables start to get really soft and mushy is the pectinase enzymes. Salt inhibits the pectinase enzymes, slows them down, so it tends to happen faster in really low salt ferments or no salt ferments. And also temperature. Like if you keep it in a really cool environment, those enzymes just slow down to a really, really, just very slow rate. But when it's in warmer temperatures, they can go faster. So a low salt ferment in hot summer temperatures will generally get mushy really fast. And then also different vegetables have different rates. Basically like not so much carrots, but like watery summer vegetables. Cucumbers and summer squash are the ones that I have observed just get mushy the fastest. But that's generally, it's generally not about too many bacteria. It's mostly about the action of these pectinase enzymes that makes things mushy. So really a shorter fermentation time, more salt, lower temperature are the sort of three variables that could help you sort of maintain crunchiness. Well, I mean, I don't really know what's going to come in the future. I mean, the New York Times had a huge story about all these like yeasts that are being engineered to produce, exotic flavors. And I mean, wines have been on the market for nearly 10 years, produced with genetically modified yeast. So, I mean, I really have no idea. I mean, really, what I see is, exciting applications of ancient processes to different ingredients. So for instance, if, tempeh is something that has, historically been made with soybeans, well, it can be done with any kind of beans. And so, I'm seeing people producing, black-eyed pea tempeh and split pea tempeh. And to me, that's, really exciting, seeing something that's, sort of an ancient process applied to very different kinds of ingredients. A few months ago, a woman showed up at a workshop I did with sauerkraut that had vanilla beans in it. And I never would have thought of that in a million years. And at first, when she showed it to me, I made this face, like it sounded like a wrong combination, and it was incredibly delicious. So I don't know. I mean, I'm excited by sort of a generation of us who were sort of like cut off from these traditions. Embracing them, and because we are postmodern people, we're sort of taking these ancient traditions and applying them in different kinds of ways. And to me, that's exciting in a way that genetically modified yeast really isn't. Well, let me tell you that like my biggest batch when I go home, like in about 2 weeks, I'm doing a workshop on my friend's biodynamic farm where he plants daikon radishes as a cover crop. And I'm going to go with my pickup truck and pick about 500 pounds of radishes. And I have this like 55-gallon oak barrel from the Jack Daniel's distillery. And every year I'll grate about a third of those radishes. I'll slice about a third of the radishes. And then I take the biggest and most shapely ones and I just bury them whole, and it stinks. And, sometimes people are really put off by the smells of fermentation. I get emails like, my husband hates the smell of it, and he doesn't want me to have it in my kitchen. Where can I put it? But I would really like challenge you to, maybe sometimes the top, through oxidation or surface growth will get a little gross, but just go down an inch and just take out a piece, take it away from the rest of it, smell that, just have a tiny little nibble of it. I mean, so far the track record of safety of fermented vegetables is excellent because there never has been a documented case of food poisoning in the United States coming from fermented vegetables. And, so it's not really playing Russian roulette to taste it. And, if it tastes as nasty as it smells, spit it out and, get rid of that batch. But, I would even wager that it's going to taste better than it smells. And that's the story of a lot of fermented foods. Like those of us that love stinky cheeses, the cheeses don't taste the way they smell. They taste better. So anyway, I wish we could go on all evening doing this, but we have things we have to taste. So wait. There's more.
Thank you, Sandor.